My name is Emma, and up until that terrible night, the night I went to my best friend Sarah's bachelorette party, my life was just like any other story of love and marriage. I had no idea that what had happened that evening would upend my marriage and force me to face a reality so painful that it would permanently alter my path in life. The invitation came in a stunning glittering envelope, with whimsical typography and a dash of glitter. Join us for a night of entertainment and celebration, in honor of Sarah's final evening as a single woman. It stated. I was in charge of planning the event as I was her best friend and maid of honor. There was a lot of pressure to make it special, and to give Sarah the proper send-off into married life. I decided on a hip, sophisticated nightclub right in the middle of the city. I'd planned a private VIP section with soft seats and glittering fairy lights, and Sarah's favorite DJ was set to spin. It felt like the ideal night, one full of dancing, laughter, and the strengthening of friendships. When night fell and we walked into the club, the air was charged with anticipation. Sarah exuded happiness with her dazzling smile. The remaining bridesmaids, a mixture of college and childhood acquaintances, were just as excited to celebrate the engagement. In my case, I was engrossed in the chaos of the evening, making an effort to make sure that everyone enjoyed themselves. We danced the night away as the music pounded through the air, and the bass vibrated in our chests. There was laughter and glass clinking in the secluded VIP section. Everything appeared to be ideal. But I had no idea that a storm was building, and that my once secure world would soon be engulfed by it. Amidst the festivity, Sarah proposed a game. A game that would untangle the intricate strands of my existence. We got together in a circle and passed a deck of cards around, each one holding a truth or a dare, up until the cards fell in front of me and I drew a truth. It was all in good humor. What's your biggest, darkest secret you've been hiding from your spouse? Despite her ignorance of the bomb she had just dropped, Sarah smiled mischievously. I looked around me at the faces of the women, trying to find a route out, and my heart pounded in my chest. With expectation building, the room fell silent. The reality was like a stone to my conscience, and I swallowed hard. I stumbled as I tried to pass the cards to the next person. I can't do this. However, the throng pressed me to open up about the darkest recesses of my soul. With attention in the air, I inhaled deeply before saying anything that would destroy my fantasy of a flawless marriage. I have been having an affair. My confession hung in the air and gasps reverberated across the room. My buddy's features contorted in horror. Their eyes widened in incredulity. Sarah's smile vanished and was replaced with a dejected and disappointed expression. She uttered a barely audible, "What, over the music?" I murmured, "I'm so sorry," as tears started to form in my eyes. I didn't want any of this to happen. The truth leaked out of me like poison, a feeling of treachery permeating the air. The room, which had been filled with joy before, suddenly seemed like a tight cage of regret and shame. One admission had undone the threads of my life, and there was no turning back. My dearest friend Sarah looked at me with a confused and hurt look. The happy occasion was clouded by the weight of my confession, which hovered in the air. The other women looked at each other nervously, not sure how to respond to the revelation I had made. The club was filled with the DJ's music, which was playing and mocking the mix of emotions in the room. I felt the weight of my deeds bearing down on me as I stood there with the truth revealed. The celebration of the bachelorette party had turned into a terrifying nightmare, where the exuberance had been replaced by the deafening quiet of broken trust. The question started as soon as the truth of what I had said sunk in. How could I be my husband's betrayer? Why did I select this particular moment? Was there any chance for redemption? I staggered out of the VIP section, my companion's accusing looks trailing behind me. My steps became heavier as I moved through the packed dance floor, the bass of the song pulsating in my ears. I wanted room to breathe, enough room to process the enormity of what I had just shared. As I stepped onto the balcony, the chilly night air hit me and the city lights below shimmered like a faraway dream. With the weight of my actions threatening to drag me into the chasm below, I leaned against the railing. My thoughts were cut off by a voice. "Emma, what just happened?" It was Sarah, with a mix of despair and rage in her red-rimmed eyes. "I'm not sure," I muttered, straining to be heard. None of this was intended to occur. It just happened. With a tear streaming down her cheek, Sarah shook her head. Emma, you wrecked her bachelorette party. How could you treat us like this? I answered. I ruined everything, the pit of my stomach growing heavier with shame. I destroyed my marriage, our friendship, everything. The truth threatened to burst forth like a storm cloud hanging in the atmosphere. I was left to deal with the fallout from my actions after shattering the mirage of my ideal existence. As the evening progressed, the Bachelorette celebration broke up in chaos. The once vibrant party had turned into a solemn event, with murmurs of incredulity and condemnation. In place of laughter, I made an effort to save what was remained of the evening, but the harm was too great. The party broke up as the weight of my admission became apparent, leaving me alone, by myself in the debris of my own creation. My closest friend, Sarah, was confused and disappointed by what had happened to her party, and she was unable to process it. As soon as word got out, the bridesmaids split into two groups, those who consoled me and those who mocked me. It felt like a cage of guilt and judgment, the club that had once been a place of delight. I staggered out into the chilly night, tears clouding my view of the city. My husband, Jack, who had no idea that the storm was coming, was calling and texting me on my phone. With humiliation and remorse gnawing at my insides, I was unable to answer. With the city lights reflecting the disarray in my head, I strolled aimlessly around the streets. My confessions after effects tormented me, and I kept seeing the same image in my mind, wondering how I had allowed things to get to this point. The numbness within was far more chilling than the chilly wind that dug into my skin and whipped through my hair. As the night went on, I eventually found myself at Sarah's door, the one person who appeared to comprehend the extent of my hopelessness. She was confused and empathetic when I entered her flat, despite the grief I had caused her. With the weight of my confession hanging in the air, we sat in quiet for what seemed like hours. Sarah finally spoke, her voice a mix of melancholy and rage. Emma, how could you do this? How could you be so unfaithful to Jack? I was at a loss for responses. The sequence of decisions that had sent me down this perilous path was beyond me to explain. With all the damage I had caused, all I could do was cry and ask for forgiveness, which felt like an insincere request. Morning was coming, and I realized how serious things were. I had broken the confidence of my closest friends, ruined my marriage, and betrayed the guy I loved. The calm of the city seemed to be mocking me as it was now bathed in the gentle hues of daybreak. Torn between fury and loyalty, Sarah pushed me to tell Jack the truth. She felt that the only way I could possibly hope to save any kind of future was by being honest. I went home with a heavy heart, ready to face the repercussions of what I had done. Jack stood waiting, an expression of uncertainty and fear on his face. Every phrase I said to expose the affair seemed like a blade piercing his heart. The guy I had promised to love and cherish was no longer the same person. I could see the pain in his eyes. The days that followed were a blur of feelings, including betrayal, despair, and rage. Jack was demanding answers, but I could not get my explanations through. He packed his things and left our house. Alone in the ruins of my life, I turned to counseling in an effort to make sense of the complex web of decisions I had made. My haven was the therapist's office, where I could face the demons that had misled me. I explored the source of my unhappiness, the gaps in my marriage that had grown until they were unbridgeable through emotional sessions. During my self-examination, I came to the startling conclusion that the affair was a sign of a more serious problem rather than just a way for me to get away from my marital problems. I had never really grasped who I was or what I wanted out of life, and that was a difficult discovery. Days stretched into weeks and weeks into months, while I dealt with the fallout from my broken marriage. Friends turned away from one another, unable to reconcile the me they knew with the Emma I had become. The loneliness was oppressive, a never-ending reminder of the harm I had done to the world. One evening, I was sitting by myself in my apartment's darkness when there was a knock on the door. When I opened it, I saw Jack standing there, visible exhaustion on his face. He gave me a dejected yet pained face, and I prepared myself for the last strike. He spoke with a calmness that belied the fury inside of him, which surprised me. After some reflection, Emma, I've come to the conclusion that both of us were involved in what transpired. Although I don't condone your behavior, I am open to the idea of re-establishing trust. I felt hope like a faint flimsy flame. Jack's remarks provided an air of hope, a way to patch together the pieces of our shared life. The therapist led us down the turbulent path of re-establishing trust and finding love as we hesitantly started the healing process. There were tears, disagreements, and depressing moments throughout the long and difficult journey. But as we made our way down the perilous route, we discovered something new. We addressed the unfulfilled needs, communication problems, and concerns that had been simmering beneath the surface as we faced the demons that had plagued our marriage. The path towards redemption was not straight, and obstacles stood in the way of our advancement. Nevertheless, we got back up after every setback, resolved to build a future forged from the ashes of our history. Slowly but clumsily, the love that had seemed beyond repair started to heal. I resolved to become a better person by accepting the repercussions of my actions. During our battles, I broke off my relationship with the person I had deceived Jack for, understanding that a fresh start was necessary for genuine development. The seclusion that accompanied my metamorphosis served as a furnace for introspection and a path towards self-realization and self-love. Jack and I weathered the storm together, growing stronger, wiser, and more resilient as the seasons changed and the wounds gradually healed. The lingering echoes of that fatal night served as a continual reminder of the weakness of secrets and their ability to destroy. But out of the ashes of hopelessness, a new foundation, one based on openness, dialogue, and a strong dedication to development, was established. My bachelorette party story was a memorable event that shaped our love story and is still carved in the shadows of our shared past. The wounds from betrayal served as a symbol of the human spirit's tenacity and a sobering reminder that atonement was possible, even in the worst of circumstances. Thus, as the years passed, Jack and I learned to appreciate the frailty of love as we navigated the challenges of marriage. Though the agony of the past continued to haunt us, it also acted as a beacon, pushing us in the direction of a future in which our relationship would be built on vulnerability and honesty. I thought back on the path that had led me to this point as the sun sank below the horizon, illuminating the city that had seen my life fall apart. Even while our love story was still woven with the scars of betrayal, they were no longer what made us who we were. Rather, they demonstrated the human spirit's tenacity and served as a reminder that healing and restoration were achievable even in the most hopeless situations. I entered the future then, where the echoes of that fateful night were muffled by the soft embrace of forgiveness and the steadfast commitment to a love that had withstood the storm. My heart heavy with the weight of the past and my eyes bright with the promise of a new dawn.